Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are jumping straight into a really dreaded experience.
Oh, universally dreaded, I think.
Right, that moment when your mind just goes completely blank. You're trying to speak a foreign language, especially English, and you know the material cold, but nothing.
It's like your brain takes an unplanned vacation at the worst possible time. It is so frustrating.
I think everyone listening has felt that mental whiteout.
Oh, absolutely. I've lived it. I mean, I remember gearing up for my first ever professional job interview in English. I had rehearsed everything. I felt completely ready.
Okay, so you were prepped. And what happened when you actually sat down?
The interviewer asked the first question. It was a behavioral one, something I absolutely knew. And the moment I opened my mouth to answer, it was just static. The connection between my brain and my mouth it
Yeah,
short-circuited.
total silence.
Utter silence.
Mhm.
I just stared, completely tongue-tied. I couldn't even find basic words like and or but.
Wow. That is a high-stakes moment for a complete cognitive shutdown.
How did you?
How did you break out of it?
Well, I realized I needed an escape hatch. My panic response was just to blurt out, "I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?"
Find time.
Exactly. It sounded polite, but really it just bought me maybe 3 seconds. Just enough time to take a deep breath and grab the first few words of my answer. It felt like a tiny tactical victory.
That is the perfect reason we're doing this deep dive. My own experience was, thankfully, much lower stakes, but the feeling was identical.
Oh, yeah.
When I first moved to Paris, I walked into this amazing little bakery. You know, the smell of butter and fresh bread is everywhere. And all I wanted was a simple croissant.
The simplest
The
thing.
simplest thing. But when the baker looked at me, the word croissant just vanished. My mind completely froze up. I ended up just pointing at the display case and saying, "One of those, please."
I was so embarrassed. And that collapse, whether it's in a job interview or a bakery, that's what we need to figure out how to beat.
Exactly. So our mission today is to explore why this freeze happens. We'll get into the science of it, nerves, cognitive overload, and then pull out some really practical, strategic tips to help you stay cool, confident, and just keep the conversation flowing.
Let's do it.
So let's start with the science. What is fundamentally causing this mental crash? What's the mechanism?
It's so fascinating because the freeze isn't really a failure of knowledge. It's a failure of access.
Access. Okay.
Yeah, it's a combination of nerves and cognitive overload, just hammering your working memory. See, when you speak your native language, it's mostly automatic, right? You're not thinking about verb conjugations.
Right. It just flows. But with a non-native language, you're consciously monitoring every little thing.
Precisely. And that's the cognitive burden. Your brain is trying to run like 4 high-demand apps at the same time. Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and listening to the other person, all in real time.
It sounds like trying to write an email while driving a car and doing your taxes.
Uh-huh, exactly. It's exhausting. Now you have the pressure factor, a job interview, trying to impress your boss. Your body releases a flood of cortisol, the stress hormone.
And that's not just a feeling, it does something physically.
It physically impairs the function of your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain you're relying on for all that juggling. It gets hijacked.
So the control center you need gets shut down by stress, and that's when the whole system just grinds to a halt. The knowledge is still there, but you can't retrieve it.
That's the breakdown. And the fear of making mistakes just makes it worse. That worry eats up any remaining mental capacity, and you're left with that mental vacuum. You've hit a wall.
Okay, so if we understand that mechanism, the working memory just gets depleted. How do we fight back in the moment? What are the tactical lifelines we can use?
The first, and I think the most important one, is to prepare what we call go-to phrases. These are your mental safety net.
Could you repeat the question?
Exactly. Or things like, let me think about that for a moment, or that's a great question. The key is that they require almost zero cognitive load to say. They're preloaded scripts.
They're automatic.
They're automatic. So if you're in a meeting and your boss asks something tough, instead of freezing, you say, "That's a powerful point. Let me take a second to gather my thoughts." It makes you sound thoughtful, not panicked.
You're reframing the silence. And that little pause brings us to the next strategy, which is to just breathe and slow down. My impulse is always to rush when I'm flustered.
And rushing just accelerates the crash. When you feel that blankness coming on, you have to consciously pause, take a slow, deep breath, and really lengthen your exhale.
There's a physiological reason for that,
It's a
right?
huge one. A long exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
That's the body's rest and digest system. It actively fights that cortisol stress response. It tells your brain the alarm is over.
So you're giving your prefrontal cortex a chance to come back online.
You are. And once it's back, and you start speaking again, you use strategy 3. Focus on the message, not the perfect words.
Ah, this kills the perfectionist in me, the idea that I can't find the perfect word.
Perfectionism is the enemy of fluency here. The goal is just to get your meaning across. So if you forget the word refrigerator, you don't just stand there in silence.
Right. You say, the big box in the kitchen that keeps food cold.
Exactly. You describe the function. You use circumlocution. It works. I once had to describe a microwave in Spanish and just said, the box that makes food hot quickly. They got it immediately.
But let me challenge that for a second. In a professional setting, doesn't that risk making you sound a bit simplistic?
That's a great point. And it's about context. This is a recovery tool, not your default mode. You're choosing functional simplicity over complete silence. And honestly, native speakers improvise constantly. Showing that you're flexible is a skill in itself.
That makes sense. And that flexibility connects to the next strategy, which is using humor.
Yes. If you stumble, laugh it off. It takes the pressure off you, and it signals to the other person that you're confident enough to handle a mistake. It turns an awkward moment into a human one.
Like if you mix up desert and dessert.
Right, you just joke, well, I guess I was craving sand instead of cake. Most people appreciate the effort and will even help you out.
It makes them an ally instead of an audience.
Precisely. So those are the in-the-moment tools. But the best defense is a good offense. We need to look at the long-term habits that make freezing less likely to happen at all.
Okay, so what's the first step in building that freeze-proof foundation?
Strategy 5. Practice in low-pressure situations. The goal is to build that automatic implicit knowledge so you're not leaning so heavily on that working memory.
How low pressure are we talking?
Talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Narrating your day. Even to your pet. I am now making coffee. I need to grind the beans. By removing the fear of judgment, you free up so much mental space.
It sounds a little silly, but I can see how that would embed basic sentence structures.
It's incredibly effective. When I was learning Italian, I would narrate making dinner. Now I'm chopping the onions. I need to boil the water. It felt weird at first, but making it a daily habit, even for 5 minutes, starts to make the language feel natural.
And to make that practice more dynamic, strategy 6 is a great one. Shadowing exercises.
Shadowing is so powerful. You listen to a native speaker from a TV show, a movie, whatever, and you repeat what they say immediately, trying to copy their pronunciation, their intonation, their rhythm.
I've heard of that for accent practice, but you're saying it's more than that.
Much more. You're embedding the flow, the music of the language, without consciously thinking about grammar rules. Your brain learns to speak in chunks, not just individual words.
Speaking in chunks, not words, that's a key insight. And to build those chunks, you need vocabulary, which is strategy 7, expand themed vocabulary.
Yes. A huge reason we go blank is we just don't have the word we need. But learning random lists is not the way. You have to learn words in groups, in context.
So instead of learning 20 random words, you learn 20 words related to, say, project management.
Exactly. You learn deadline, milestone, stakeholder, deliverable all together. And this is critical. The moment you learn a new word, you have to use it in a sentence. We need to meet the deadline for this deliverable.
But what if the conversation jumps topics? If I've mastered my business vocabulary and my client asks about my weekend hobbies, does that box you in?
That's a smart question. It's not about boxing you in. It's about creating islands of high confidence. And once you have several of those islands, your brain gets better at making connections between them. Plus, you always have your in-the-moment strategies, like circumlocution, for when you're off-map.
It's a combined approach. That makes perfect sense. Okay, and finally, the last strategy is purely mental. Visualize success.
This is a huge tool for reducing anxiety. But for a big presentation or a meeting, just take a minute, close your eyes, and mentally rehearse it going well. Picture yourself speaking fluently, confidently.
A mental dress rehearsal.
That's all it is. But it lowers your baseline stress level before you even walk in the room, which makes that cognitive freeze much less likely to happen in the first place.
This deep dive has been fantastic. I think the core message is clear, that mental whiteout is a physical thing. It's stress overwhelming your working memory. The key is to move from that conscious, effortful speech to something more automatic.
And just remember that every conversation is practice. Every time you speak, even if you make a mistake, you're strengthening those automatic pathways. So be kind to yourself. See those recovery moments as wins, not failures.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've established that the freeze is about your working memory getting depleted. So, with that in mind, does preparing 20 highly specific go-to phrases simply add more data for your overloaded brain to access? Or is it a truly effective safety bypass that runs on a completely separate low-effort circuit? Think about that tension between preparation and cognitive relief. And happy speaking.